Hello everybody. Here we go with our first distance learning review video for section 10.1, areas of parallelograms and triangles. This one will be pretty short and sweet. Two formulas to go through, one for parallelograms, one for triangles. I'd recommend as you're going through here, have that formula sheet we gave you, just so you have those handy. You can follow along on that as we go through some problems. All right, here we go. So problem one, finding areas of parallelograms. Okay, we have a parallelogram with a few different dimensions on it. We want to figure out its area. Okay, reminder, parallelogram had a simple area formula. Area is just equal to B times H. Okay, where B is the length of the base and H is the height of the parallelogram. Now, trick is, remember with a parallelogram, any of the sides could be the base. I could say the bottom is the base here, which I know the dimensions of, and the left side is the base, which I know the dimension of. The trick is I have to pick the base with the correct height. Okay, the height isn't a side of the parallelogram, it's the distance from one base to another at a right angle. Okay, so for this one here, I have to use the 15 as my base because it's the one I know the height for. All right, so we can fill in area is equal to 15 for the base, okay, times 6 for the height. In other words, we could say 90 millimeters squared for our area. All right, again, trick with this one is just matching up the proper base and height. And again, since I don't know the height that goes along with this base of 6.5, I can't use it, and that'll lead into the next problem we're looking at as well. Problem 2 deals with parallelograms as well, and in this one what we're going to do is solve for a missing dimension. It says what is the value of H in the parallelogram, and notice H is the height that corresponds with this base of 6. We know the other base and height. So here's what we can do for this one. We can say area equals base times height. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the base and height that I know. Okay, so area is equal to 12 times 4. In other words, the area is 48. Okay, how is that helpful? Well, let's go back to the formula, area equals base times height, and let's fill it in with the other base and height. The other base is 6. Okay, the other height I don't know, so we'll leave that as H for now. But what I can do with this equation is, since I already know the area, I know the big A from the other two dimensions, I can fill that in and say 48 is equal to 6 times 8. And in other words, if I divide both sides of this simple equation by 6, I end up with H is just equal to an 8. All right, so that's how I can use one of the bases and heights to solve for the other height, or I suppose I could solve for the other base. In other words, figure out the total area first and then use that to solve for a missing dimension. All right, next up, problem 3, we're going to find the area of a triangle. Okay, remember area formula for that is equal to half times base times height. So essentially here we're saying a triangle is just half the area of a parallelogram. Okay, triangle is half a parallelogram. Don't forget the half. Once again, the trick is that any three sides of a triangle we could say is the base. The trick is we need to pick the base that has the height that goes along with it. In this case, 5 is my height for the bottom of the triangle is the base. Okay, a side length at a right angle to the base that reaches the vertex or the other corner of the triangle. I don't know what the height is for this 6.4. I don't know what the height is for the 13. That's why I've got to use the 12 plus 4 as my base, and the 5 is my height. Okay, so we can say area is equal to 1/2 times the base, which will be, we'll just add these together, 12 plus 4 would be 16. Okay, times the height, which is 5. Okay, half times 6 times 5. When I multiply that through, I get a 40. So we can say 40 feet squared. All right, last question we're going to look at is finding the area of an irregular figure. Okay, in other words, a figure that's a combination of more than one shape. Okay, now this shape here, I suppose it's an irregular 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-sided shape, so a regular pentagon. I don't have an area formula for that, but what I can do is I can break this into shapes that I do have area formulas for, find the areas of each of those, and then add the parts together. Okay, so the way I see this one breaking down is as a rectangle along with a triangle. Okay, the rectangle for this one's going to be simple. Okay, rectangle is the same thing as a parallelogram. Just area equals base times height. So in other words, we could say 16 is the base and 5 is the height. All right, so area equals 80. Okay, the tricky part for this one's going to be the triangle. Once again, area of a triangle, like we did a second ago, is half times base times height. Okay, so let's see here. The trick is going to be is that the base and heights, we don't have those. We need to solve for them. And I can say this bottom part of the triangle is the base. All right, from here to here. And the way I'll calculate that is I'll take this entire 14 along the bottom and subtract the 5. 14 minus 5 is 9. So in my equation, I can say I have half times base of 9 times the height. And then for the height, the same idea. What I can do is I can take this entire 16 along the right side, subtract the 6.5. 16 minus 6.5 is going to be a 9.5 for this other dimension. And since that's going to be at a right angle, I can use the two sides of this triangle as a base and height. Okay, so my height's 9.5 for that base of 9. Or vice versa, we could say the base is 9.5, the height's 9. And when I multiply that through, I end up with a 42.75. And then my total area will just be adding the two of those together, the 80 plus the 42.75, which will give me a 122.75, and we can say meters squared for a final answer. All right, there you go. There's your crash course in lesson 10-1. Okay, the review assignment online, 10-1 to 10-4 review. The first 4 questions on it go along with 10-1. Okay, each lesson has 4 questions for it. So now go ahead, give those a shot. Give me a heads up if you need some help. Join me for office hours if you need help. And once you're done with that, you can keep rocking and rolling with the next video. We'll see you guys later.